Madam Ngozi and her husband, Chukwudi, were a well-loved couple in their community. Their love story was one of devotion and respect, often serving as an example to others. Despite their deep love, one shadow loomed over their marriage. They had been unable to have children. Years turned into decades, and while friends and family often hinted at adoption or other alternatives, Chukwudi suggested they remain hopeful. "Let us act in faith," he told Ngozi one evening. "We'll prepare for the children God will bless us with." His words comforted Ngozi, and she felt renewed hope. As a symbol of their faith, Chukwudi proposed they start investing in properties for their future children. He suggested buying lands and houses, each deed written in the name of one of their 3 children to be. Madam Ngozi, a successful businesswoman, agreed wholeheartedly. She saw this as a sign of belief in their future blessings. With her finances as the foundation, the couple began purchasing properties, with each one legally assigned to the imagined names Chukwudi had chosen. The names Chukwudi picked for their future children were Chinedu, Amaka, and Ifeanyi. Ngozi found the names beautiful and felt even more connected to the dream of their family. "One day we'll have them running around these homes," Chukwudi would say with a smile. While Ngozi poured her heart and money into building a future for the children she longed for, Chukwudi seemed particularly involved in the process. He handled all the paperwork and registration, ensuring the names were correctly recorded on each deed. Years passed, and the hoped-for children never arrived. While Ngozi grew more concerned about their situation, Chukwudi continued to reassure her. "God's time is the best," he would often say. His calm demeanor gave her peace, and she continued focusing on growing her business. The properties became their shared symbol of faith, and Ngozi found solace in visiting them. "Our children will inherit these," she would remind herself. Little did she know the names on the deeds were not imaginary. After nearly 2 decades of marriage, tragedy struck. Chukwudi fell ill unexpectedly. Despite numerous treatments and prayers, he passed away within a year. Ngozi was devastated by the loss of her husband and the unfulfilled dream of their family. As she mourned, she found comfort in the legacy they had built together. The properties for their future children became a symbol of their shared hope and faith, and she promised to honor his memory by preserving them. Months after Chukwudi's death, Ngozi was approached by a lawyer handling his estate. She was surprised when he mentioned finalizing the ownership of the properties they had purchased together. "But they are already in our children's names," she said. The lawyer's expression changed. "Madam," he began cautiously, "we need to discuss the details of these properties." He handed her a folder with documents that bore the names of the supposed future children, Chinedu, Amaka, and Ifeanyi. Ngozi's heart sank as the lawyer revealed the truth. Chinedu, Amaka, and Ifeanyi were not imaginary children. They were in fact Chukwudi's children from another woman he had been involved with secretly for years. Tears streamed down Ngozi's face as she realized the depth of the betrayal. The properties she had poured her money and hopes into now legally belonged to the children of another woman, children she had never even known existed. As more details emerged, Ngozi learned about the woman Chukwudi had fathered the children with. Her name was Adan, a quiet woman who lived in another part of town. It turned out Chukwudi had been supporting Adan and their children for years using the wealth he had built with Ngozi. Feeling shattered, Ngozi wondered how her husband could have lived such a double life. The man she had trusted had betrayed her in the most unimaginable way, and the betrayal had reached beyond his grave. The lawyer informed Ngozi that as per the deeds and legal documents, the properties were irrevocably in the names of Chinedu, Amaka, and Ifeanyi. "There's little we can do," he said solemnly. Your husband ensured everything was airtight. Ngozi felt as though the ground had been ripped out from beneath her. Her life's savings and dreams had been built on a lie. And now, there was no way to reclaim what she had worked so hard for. And Ngozi decided to confront Adan, not out of anger, but to understand how Chukwudi could have deceived her so completely. When they met, Adan appeared remorseful but unapologetic. He loved all his children, she said quietly, and he wanted to provide for them equally. The encounter left Ngozi more confused than ever. She wondered if she had ever truly known the man she had called her husband. The depth of his deceit caught her deeply, and she questioned her own judgment. After meeting Adani, Ngozi returned home, her heart heavy with grief and anger. The betrayal felt like a wound that wouldn't heal. Memories of her life with Chukwudi replayed in her mind, his reassurances, his calm demeanor, and the dream they had built together. She began to question everything. Had their love been real, or was she simply a tool for him to provide for the family he had secretly created? These questions consumed her, leaving her sleepless and emotionally drained. News of the scandal spread quickly in their community. Friends and neighbors who once admired Ngozi began whispering behind her back. Some accused her of being blind to her husband's deception, while others hinted that she had failed as a wife. Even those who sympathized with her pain offered little comfort. At least he left the properties to his children, one friend said. Ngozi felt isolated and betrayed, not just by Chukwudi, but by the community she had once trusted. Despite her anger, Ngozi was curious about Chinedu, Amaka, and Ifeanyi. She wondered what kind of lives they had led while she unknowingly financed their future. Through the lawyer, she learned that Chinedu was 20, Amaka was 18, and Ifeanyi was 15. Each of them had grown up in relative comfort, attending good schools and living in a decent home. It hurt Ngozi to know that her sacrifices had contributed to their upbringing while she remained childless and unaware. To make sense of her pain, Ngozi revisited the properties they had purchased. Each house and plot of land held memories of her hope and faith. Standing before one of the houses, she broke down in tears, mourning the family she had dreamed of and the life she thought she had built. She recalled Chukwudi's words during their purchase, "Our children will inherit this." It now felt like a cruel joke, a reminder of how he had used her trust against her. Determined not to give up, Ngozi sought the advice of another lawyer. She hoped there might be a loophole that would allow her to reclaim the properties. "There must be something we can do," she said, clutching the documents. The lawyer examined the deeds and contracts but shook his head. "I'm afraid the properties are legally theirs. Your husband ensured everything was in their names. It's ironclad." Ngozi felt her hope slipping away yet again. In her despair, Ngozi turned to her faith for solace. She spent hours praying and seeking guidance, asking God for strength to endure the pain and betrayal. She began to realize that holding on to anger and resentment was only hurting her further. "Chukwudi may have betrayed me, but I will not let his actions define my future," she resolved. Though her heart was still heavy, Ngozi decided to focus on rebuilding her life, even if it meant starting from scratch. One day, Chinedu, Chukwudi's eldest son, reached out to Ngozi. He asked to meet her, saying he wanted to discuss something important. Reluctantly, Ngozi agreed, unsure of what to expect. When they met, Chinedu surprised her by apologizing. "I didn't know my father deceived you like this," he said. "We only found out about the properties after his death." His words brought Ngozi a small measure of comfort, though she remained guarded. Chinedu revealed that he and his siblings had been struggling with guilt since learning the truth. "We don't want to take everything from you," he said. We'd like to work out a way to share the properties. Ngozi was taken aback. While she appreciated the gesture, she wasn't sure if she could trust them. The pain of betrayal was still fresh, and she feared being hurt again. "I'll need time to think about it," she replied. A week later, Amaka visited Ngozi. Unlike Chinedu, Amaka seemed defensive. "You may be hurt, but we're his children too," she said. "We didn't ask to be born into this situation." Ngozi struggled to contain her anger. "Do you think I wanted this?" she snapped. Amaka's visit ended on a sour note, leaving Ngozi even more conflicted about how to handle the situation. Ifeanyi, the youngest of Chukwudi's children, wrote Ngozi a heartfelt letter. In it, he expressed his confusion and sadness over the situation. "I never knew about you or the sacrifices you made for us," he wrote. "I hope one day we can all find peace." The letter touched Ngozi deeply. She realized that the children were also victims of Chukwudi's deception. Slowly, her anger began to soften, replaced by a desire to find a way forward. Ngozi agreed to meet with Chinedu, Amaka, and Ifeanyi together. During the meeting, emotions ran high as they discussed the situation. Chinedu proposed selling some of the properties and giving Ngozi a portion of the proceeds. Amaka suggested keeping the properties in the family while sharing the income from rents or leases. Ngozi listened carefully, unsure of which path to take. "We need to heal before we can decide," she said, ending the meeting on a cautious note. Ngozi began to open up to a few close friends about her struggles. Their support gave her strength and helped her see that she wasn't alone. One friend suggested starting a foundation to help women who had been betrayed in similar ways. The idea resonated with Ngozi. She realized that her story could inspire others to overcome betrayal and rebuild their lives. "Maybe this is my purpose," she thought.